There's a risk involved. Well, the Icelandic people feel the same way. The president of Iceland held a referendum and said, should we pay back England and the Dutch? It was close. Here are the numbers. A big whopping 93% said no. In the yes category, it was 1.8. So what did the president of Iceland come out and say? Yeah, we'll pay the British and the Dutch back. Wait a minute. Why would you take this referendum? Why would you do that? Why would you ask the people, have them respond this way, and then come back and say, yeah, okay, we'll pay it back anyway? Do you remember the bald communist? By the way, we have an amazing update on the story coming up in a few minutes. But do you remember what he said about pushing the disenfranchised here in America? Listen carefully.
We have to help bring this government down. We have to help destroy this system, and that requires increasing the alienation that working class and oppressed people feel. The way change is going to happen in this country is through the destruction of what we call the United States of America. I'm opposed to the system that we traditionally call imperialism, and the idea that some people have rights and privileges that are not granted to all.
What did he say at the beginning? We have to push the disenfranchisement. Well, is there a better way than the government coming in and saying, we're in charge? Doesn't matter what you say. We're going to jam health care through. We're going to jam cap and trade. How are you feeling? Disenfranchised? Wow. The bald communist, wait until the update at the bottom of the hour. The bald communist said we have to push those things. Here's why we need to watch Iceland. Because if they go against the will of their people and they pay this money to England, England is going to fall. It will collapse economically. Greece will collapse. There's going to be really bad economic times coming for Europe and the rest of the world. Well, as those dominoes start to fall, another is going to be forced to pay, and then another country, and then another country. And in the end, guess who all of the countries are pointing to? You, America. We're the home of the free market. Americans told us capitalism would work, and now look at the world, huh? As Iceland goes, so goes the U.S. Here's something else to watch. In France, polls have this guy, the president, Nicolas Sarkozy. He's center-right. He's hitting now new lows. Look out, because whoever is ruling now in any country, no matter what, as this economy tanks and they spend all this money, and they do that, it doesn't matter if they're right or left, as they tank, they're going to become extraordinarily unpopular. So his approval rating is down to 36%. However, this guy, far-right, Villepen, he's at 57%. Also, you have far-right Dutch MP Geert Wilders. Last year, he was banned from the UK. They said his presence could threaten community harmony and therefore public safety. Last week, not only was he allowed into England, he was at the House of Lords, where he screened a film on the Quran. The right and the left are growing again in Europe. The left, listen carefully, the left in Europe is communism. The right is fascism in Europe. Europe is making the same mistakes that they made at the turn of the century. Mark my words. Watch, please, do me a favor. We don't have enough staff to watch this, and nobody else is looking for it. Please, watch the crazy fringe groups over in Europe and tweet them to me at Glenn Beck on Twitter. Please, watch them as a watchdog, because they're headed down the wrong tracks, and we have to be prepared. Have you ever heard that people say, you know what, America's on the wrong track? Let me show you how true that is. Do I have my, here it is. Let me just show you how we got here. Turn of the century. We had the Age of Enlightenment, 1620 to 1781. This was a time when people said, wait a minute, we can think out of the box. This is coming out of the Dark Ages. We can do anything. Wait a minute, maybe people should be free. That was a new concept. People had never been free before. The Age of Enlightenment. Dream, think, anything. Some people were thrown into jail. Some people were killed. Some people were burned at the stake. Some people were driven away. But people still thought the unthinkable things, and it led to 1776. Up until this point, Europe had kings and rulers. That's what they had. You were a serf. You didn't have any rights. If you were born into the right class, you could rule. You could have your way. But if you weren't born there, you got nothing. Who are you to speak to me like this? Got it? The Age of Enlightenment brought us Jefferson and Franklin and Madison and Adams, and they were all thinking, wait a minute, we should be free, but you know what? With an exception, I think, of Hamilton, he said, let's get off of these tracks. Hamilton wanted to just say, let's just switch Parliament out. Let's just put a parliamentary system. But our founders knew that was wrong. You couldn't be on those tracks. So they took us and they built a new line right off those tracks. This was the American Revolution. It was taking us to new, bold places. While we were doing that, 1791 was our Constitution. While we were doing that, at 1793 to 1850, a guy named Godwin, he was the first one who said, wait a minute, there's the collective we. There's not just we, the people, as in you and me being separate and having equal rights separately, but there's a collective we. This led to Karl Marx. The idea here was freedom. This was the French Revolution, which you remember ended in the guillotines. It was bad. It fooled some of our founders. Thomas Paine was almost executed in the guillotines because he went over and said, hey, this is great. Oh, you're on the wrong track. They didn't build new tracks. They were looking for new rulers on this track. Got it? Karl Marx comes along. They go down a little farther. Now, at 1850, 1848 is when the Communist Manifesto is written. 1850 to 1880, something else is happening. What's happening here is the Statue of Liberty is being built. The George Washington crossing the Delaware was painted for the Germans, not the Americans. There were a group of people in Europe saying, wait a minute, guys, look at what they're doing. Look at America. Look at this track. We got to get off of this one. At the same time, we decide we're going to emulate Europe. 1880. We start looking at what Europe is doing, and we start attending their schools, and we start bringing over their professors. 1880, what was all the rage? Nietzsche. God is dead. We bring this disease here, while they are trying to pull us. You see what happens? Our tracks start to bend back down. We're here. We're back on the same path that our founders took us off of. We're looking for rulers now. We're looking for kings and princes. You tell me, Charlie Rangel, is Charlie Rangel part of the ruling class, or is he with you and me? Would you and I get away with this? How about the union bosses? Would you and I get away with this? How about Massa? Here's a congressman being destroyed because of his point of view. We're going down the wrong tracks. And what are those tracks? Lenin and Stalin on the left track, communism. That's this track. This one is fascism. Left and right. And you just hope that it stays in the center, but it is about to come undone. Mark my words, Europe is going to make the mistakes that they made in the 1930s. Some of them are going to push into communism. Some of them are going to push back into fascism. We must get off of these tracks before the same thing happens to us. In the coming days, we're going to show you how to build those tracks back up so America can head in a unique position and a unique place once again. Back in a minute. I don't know if you've noticed this, but the socialists are becoming a little bit bolder, and they're also starting to lose the term socialist. During the National Defend Education protests last week, organized by socialists, communists, and unions, this socialist from the Fist Youth group took to the streets of Detroit with a bullhorn. I want you to see him share the good news of socialism. Ready? Here he is.
Socialism, I don't know, some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not have heard good things about it.
What? Who's saying bad things about socialism? Stop it. No, listen to the great benefits. He's got great benefits here. Go ahead.
What we believe in is we believe in a free university degree. Like, we're not playing games. It's up to the government to give us this free university degree without sinking us into student debt, so that we can secure a job for ourselves in the middle class. We're saying that, hey, if we're abiding by the laws of this country, you need to secure us a job in the middle class. Another socialist value is a human right. We believe that it is a human right to a job that will secure us a place in the middle class.